We'll get it on as we tape. As we tape.
All right. Well, I'm already recording. So hurry up.
I know
Uh,
we got this. Just start going.
okay. So welcome back. Week 4 of the IHMS Power Rankings. I'm your host, Pablo Rosera, joined by Jake Hamilton, who forgot his to put on his suit, clearly. Today's episode is going to be a bit rushed because we're broke boys and don't want to pay for Zoom Pro. Uh, but we got a fun one, and we are excited about that. But we're going to jump right into it with the lowest points of the week video, featuring once again our good friend Dumay, who's on the episode once again. And here it is. Here's his video.
Fellow Americans, there's no need to be alarmed about the lowest score. It's all part of the process. I just need to get at least 2 or 3 more wins over you know who. And that's progress right there. It's the small battles, but I will overcome. We shall overcome.
And yeah, he's back, and he's so badly beaten mentally that he's pulling out his white George Bush voice. So there's that. Bro, that's not a suit. Go put on a goddamn
We're
suit.
going polo season.
No. Go put on a suit. Come on.
Okay, well I'll go find it.
You gotta find it. All right. Well, while he's gone, Jake had the pleasure of being our highest points of the week. You'll hear from him now. And while he's loading up that suit, so here we go.
Last week, whenever I voted my team 8th place in the power rankings, it was to inspire a week like this. We went from lowest scoring team in a win to highest scoring team in a week, all because I put that chip on our shoulder, and the boys deserved it. On to next week, where we'll be back in the videos.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't go back. I do not like him, and I don't want him back on highest points because I hear him enough here. So, yeah, but we'll take a quick look to see who's been on the highest points so far this season. And as you can see, highest points, no one's really ran away with it. I've had one, Jake's had one, Steven's had one, and Matthew's had one. Matthew Gurman has had one. We'll see if anyone can find some consistency soon. But on the lowest points side, we've seen Josh have the lowest points in week 1, and it's just been dominated by Dumay. So we'll see if someone can break that trend for him, but we'll see. But moving on from that, we are now going into our most shocking teams of the week. Jake, we both had, and I already forgot who mine was. Most shocking, I had you. 170 points this week. Your team finally looks like it's putting it together. You still need some more help from your running backs, but now that J.K. Dobbins is back and looking healthy, that should be a big boost for you. And you had Matthew Gurman. Why'd you have M. Gurms?
Just the guy who came in the season, big favorite. Another disappointing loss for him in another big matchup. This week he was still above average in scoring, but still not great. Jonathan Taylor injury thankfully isn't that bad for him, but still it's just a lot of underperformers in that lineup. Tight end spots looking really bad for him. With Alberto putting up another big fat 0, and then he's got guys like Curtis Samuel and Jamar Chase, who Curtis Samuel 5-point week. Jamar Chase hasn't quite hit what he was at last year, but I don't know. He can't seem to figure out the starting lineup.
Yeah.
Still another week with big point scores on the bench. So just not great for him.
All right, Jake, we cannot talk that long. We got a tight ship
Okay,
to
we'll
run
go
here.
quicker.
But moving on. I can tell you didn't come ready.
No.
Suit. I had to pull out the bow tie because I couldn't find the tie. But
that delete.
Exactly. Looking like we just got drafted, but we suck. So the only
We
draft
got
we
our
go
hats on.
to is The only draft we'd go is the military. But most disappointing, I picked myself rough week, and I deserved a spot because I started Mitch Trubisky. That's literally the only reasoning here. You had M Tom. Why is M Tom up there?
He's 2-2, another early favorite that's 2-2. A loss to a guy who's kind of middle tier of the league, and yeah, just not the best start for him. Hasn't had a good week yet.
Now we'll move on. We'll start with our Country Central Clutch Player of the Week. Another unanimous, once again spelled correctly this week. Big props. Unanimous player in this category for the first time, I believe, and it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He came up big for Remy, who just acquired him in a trade that we'll talk about in a bit. Why has Clyde been able to produce this well? He's been on a tear. He's one of the top 5 backs scoring wise so far. Do we think he'll continue to be able to do that and pay off for Remy?
I'd be surprised for him to hold up like this level of production. The 5 touchdowns he scored this year has definitely helped a lot, and I don't know, but he's breaking off a lot of big plays, a lot of touchdowns so far. So he's definitely been a good fantasy asset so far, but I don't see him sustaining like this level of eliteness, but I could see him falling back down to like back end RB1, mid RB2 kind of range. That's where I kind of see him for the rest of the season.
A lot of targets were vacated with the trade of Tyreek Hill, and it seems like they want to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire involved more. Isaiah Pacheco could take snaps from Helaire though. Moving on, stud of the sports routes, stud of the week. Jake, who do you have?
I have a man from my team, started him this week. He's on the trade block if anyone wants him. Rashad Penny. He came out, he scored 34 points, 151 yards, just adding on to all the yards he's been having this season. Finally got a couple touchdowns, which boosts his fantasy day. Big day for him, 34 points on the trade block. Please send something over.
I had TJ Hawkinson, who sadly was wasted on Josh's team. Another loss for Josh, the only undefeated team left in the league. TJ Hawkinson had a big game. We thought it would happen with basically every starter on offense skill-wise being out. Josh Reynolds had a big game. Jamal Williams, Jared Goff had a massive game, but TJ Hawkinson walked away with the most catches and most yards on last week. And Josh, who doesn't like draft picks, could be looking to make moves, but he doesn't like his draft picks. So we'll see what happens there. But moving on to the Dinkle Dud of the week. Jake, who do you have?
This week I have Matt Stafford. This is kind of more for the whole season and just a bad week for him. He only scored 6 points. They basically cost the game for SSOJ Yeti. And overall in the season, he's 22nd quarterback ranked in scoring, which is pretty bad. Clearly his elbow injury or something's wrong with him. So we'll see whether or not he can improve.
Everyone outside of Cooper Kupp has looked bad. And that goes into who I'm going to talk about, who I am really not a fan of, and that's Cam Akers. And honestly, the entire Rams running game has not looked good. But Enrique had a chance to beat Remy this week, and, it fell short because in part of Cam Akers. I don't think there was much else that Enrique could have done. Maybe start someone over Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that's neither here nor there. But Stafford's a good one, too. He also cost Josh a chance at his first victory on the season. We'll see if he can get that. Moving on, we have the trade recaps. We'll start with this first trade between Tommy and myself. I sent Juju on a 2023 third rounder via me to Tommy in exchange for Isaiah McKenzie, and a 2023 first rounder via myself too. Thoughts on the trade?
You get a nice young player in it. I'd say I probably like your side better. You get a nice young player in Isaiah McKenzie and indicate your first round pick back, which allows you a little more flexibility on the season. Tommy gets Juju, who he's been after all year, and he gets a third rounder back, which isn't too bad, but we know that third rounder probably won't last that long. But he's trying to build up and maybe make a run at the playoffs, but we'll see how this works out for him.
I agree. And speaking of Tommy went right back to the chopping block. Sent over Lamar, a 2023 fourth rounder, Devin Duvernay, and the aforementioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Remy for Mike Evans, Kyler Murray, James Conner, and a 2023 fourth rounder via Tommy, so he gets his fourth back. Big splashy trade. Obviously, I think both teams are kind of in a weird situation right now. Tommy's in between being a rebuilder and a fringe playoff hopeful. We'll actually talk more about tiers in the show later. But yeah, it was an odd trade. I like Tommy's side more just because I think, like we talked about, I think Clyde's going to regress. Connor also should have a bit better season. Lamar's having an insane year. I haven't been the biggest fan of Kyler, but Mike Evans has looked really good, and Tom Brady loves him, so he'll keep getting big targets. Devin Duvernay seems like boomer bust to me. He just has to score touchdowns, but he is running the second most routes on that team right now. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty even deal. Tommy gets a little older, but he gets probably the more proven assets out of the deal. Giving up Lamar always hurts, but I'd say overall pretty good trade, but doesn't really do much for either team.
Yeah. Now talking about not doing much for either team, the random deal of the week, James Dumay and Matthew Thompson. Dumay sends over Kadarius Toney and Mac Jones and a 2023 second round pick from Andres, projected to be a late second round pick, to Matthew Thompson for Jared Goff, the highest quarterback scorer this week. Ezekiel Elliott and Ben Skornick, the Rams receiver. Really odd deal. I guess M. Tom wanted that second round pick. Kind of saw no point in having Zeke, especially with Damian Pierce on his bench, now on his starting lineup. Dumay really needed a running back, so at least it fills one hole. I didn't like him giving up the pick, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, pretty much agree with that. M. Tom gets a nice young piece in Kadarius Toney, so pretty good for both teams. Maybe it'll help Dingleberg get off the basement.
Yeah, maybe, but we're big on trades here, and there is no one bigger in trades in the I Hate My Son League. Maybe I should say no one that hates his son more, questionable, than Mr. Tommy Blythe. And with that, we move on to our newest segment, a little special segment dedicated to Mr. Blythe. This is Trade or Tommy. Now, in this segment, we will discuss whether it's a trade that was accepted or a Tommy Blythe masterclass trade. So we have 5 trades, and let's get into trade number 1. So we have on the top, the team receives a 2023 third round pick, a 2024 fourth, a 2023 first, a 2023 fourth, a 2024 third, a 2024 fourth, and sends Jerry Jeudy. Is this a trade or a Tommy?
I don't know. This one's tough here. I would have to guess a Tommy. Just with all those third and fourth round picks, whoever made this trade is really thinking those are making a difference in the acquisition of Jerry Jeudy, but only one man has that thought process, and I think it's Tommy Blythe himself.
And that answer would be correct.
Oh.
It is a Tommy. Moving on to the second deal. The team receives a first round pick via me and would send Juju Smith-Schuster, Rashad Penny, and a 2024 first. Anyone accepting this trade would be ridiculous. I'd have to go out on a limb and say this might be a Tommy.
I would have to agree. It seems like you're just trading back. You're just getting a first round pick a year earlier and giving up 2 all right players. So I'd have to say a Tommy also.
And if you guessed a Tommy, you'd be correct. Moving on to our next, the team receives Leonard Fournette and Mark Andrews in exchange for Dawson Knox, 2024 first, 2024 first, 2 of them, another 2024 first, and another 2024 first.
Oh.
And I know you might be thinking, who the hell in this league is just harbing all those 2024 first?
It would have to be the man himself, Tommy Blythe. This trade reeks of desperation, and we know one man that's desperate for trades and needs help from the trade addiction hotline, and then his name is Tommy Blythe.
And if your guess was Tommy Blythe, you would be correct. Moving on to our next trade. This team receives Donovan Peoples-Jones and James Prochet in exchange for a 2023 first round pick. Is this a trade or a Tommy?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know, James Prochet and Donovan Peoples-Jones, two pretty elite pieces here. I'd have to say this is a Tommy.
Well, unfortunately, Jake, your first incorrect answer. This is a trade offered by Andres to Tommy. My guess would be in retaliation of another bad trade, but this is
probably one of
indeed
the previous trades
a
we've looked
trade.
at in this segment.
More than likely, yeah. And our final trade, and this one's a doozy, let me tell you. The top team receives Isaiah McKenzie, a 2023 third round pick, a 2023 fourth round pick, and a 2024 first round pick in exchange for DK Metcalf. Is this a trade or a Tommy? And to tell you the truth, of all the trades we've seen, this is the closest thing to being balanced out of all of them, if we're being honest.
And that's saying a lot considering that 2024 first is a late first.
Is this
But
a trade or a Tommy?
I'd have to say here, definitely a Tommy. Still gives those Tommy signs. The Tommy signal is buzzing. It's definitely a Tommy.
The Tommy signal is indeed buzzing because it is a Tommy. And with that, we close out our very first trader, Tommy. And we are trying to figure out, having some technical difficulties. And we are back. And now we get to move on to another interesting part of this episode with the quarter of the season upon us.
Part of the reason we're celebrating with the suits today.
Part of the reason we're celebrating with the suits. And we are here with tiers. Now, you may be asking, what exactly do we mean by tiers? Pretty simple. We are ranking not based on how you've done on the season, rather where we expect you to be based on forward moving, partially on the season. So we'll begin with, we have 4, let me check my notes. We have 4 tiers. We have toilet bowl contenders. Is it 5? We have 5 tiers. I edited the tiers. I should have known that. We have 5 tiers. Toilet bowl contenders, our rebuilders, our fringe playoff teams, our playoff hopefuls, teams we expect to make it to the playoffs, but there's not 100% certainty, and our contenders, the teams that will be vying for the belt and the title of biggest son hater. That's a big title, considering that a teacher currently holds it. We'll start off with our toilet bowl contenders, and here it is. Jake and I unanimously have decided, more so can tell, the 2 contenders for toilet bowl, James Dumay and Josh Gitlin, and these 2 teams are just struggling week in, week out. Dumay, another low-scoring week. They're the only 2 teams with the lowest points on the week featured. I just don't know what's going to happen with these teams at this point. They should be looking towards the future. Trading away a second-round pick does not do that. Jake, what are your thoughts here?
These 2 pretty obvious choices. The only 2 people not to break 500 in their max PF. One of them's 0-4. Dinkelberg somehow has a win and is 1-3. But I'd expect the over-under on their combined win total at the end of the year is definitely over-under 2.5, I'd say. So
I'll take
these
the
two,
over on that
it's
one.
most likely going to be head to head between them two in the final of the toilet bowl to see who's doing stand up.
We'll put $5 on the over on that one.
Oh,
And we'll come back to this at the end of the year. Don't you worry, folks. We will be doing a compilation. Moving on to our rebuilders. I'm gonna go first here. And I have one rebuilder, and that's Tommy Blythe. The issue with his team is there's no clear-cut focus. And it's not like he's having bad weeks. He's having good scoring weeks. He's just facing off against tougher teams. But I think he should be focused more on rebuilding right now than trying to get right back into the win total. He has no first round or second round picks, if I'm not mistaken, for 2023. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. Jake, who do you have as a rebuilder or rebuilders?
I have 3 rebuilders. I agree with the Tommy one, and I agree with the little hesitation on calling him rebuilder just because he's actively
know what
trying
he's
to not
doing.
rebuild. I don't know. But then added to that list, I also have Remy and I have Josh. I'll start with Remy. He did make that trade with Tommy. He improved the QB position. Got Clyde, who's been having a hot year, but other than that, his team's pretty weak with very little depth. It's kind of hard to call him a rebuilder too, considering his only pick in 2023 is a 4th round pick. But he should start looking that direction. But I'd call him a rebuilder. And then for Josh, I'd say his team, he's kind of on the edge of a rebuilder, but I'd say that's kind of the direction he's going in. He's had a couple good weeks. Now it'd be 2-2, but still, I'd say his flexes are a pretty good indication that it's probably a good time to rebuild. Dortch, it had a hot few weeks, but now that Rondale Moore's back, it didn't really get the snaps. Naheem Hines, who might have a good week if Jonathan Taylor isn't scoring many points other than that. Will Disley somehow scoring points for him, but he should not be your first flex option. So probably a good time for him to rebuild also.
Tight end at the flex is always a questionable move. Jake was, and I do want to point out this. I actually did receive a text this morning from Andres to tell me that something I probably would have seen at some point, but he did alert this to me. 8 teams at 2-2 right now. There's only 3 teams with 1 win. And then there are 3 teams with more than 3 wins, with 1 undefeated team, Andres, and 1 winless team, Josh. So highly competitive per usual. 18
Good
playoffs.
parity.
We'll see what happens. 18 playoffs means that there are some fringe playoff teams. Jake, who are your picks for fringe playoff teams?
I've got 3 fringe playoff teams. I've got Enrique, I've got Steven, and I've got Jacoby. So we'll start with Big Ricky himself. His team, definitely since that first year where his team was very, very rough, it's improved a lot. Joe Burrow's good. Najee Harris is good. Devontae Adams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Dallas Goedert are all solid pieces. Cam Akers is we'll see. No, not everyone can be James Robinson. He's got Drake London. He's got some very solid. He's got a good solid core. He's definitely a guy that could pull an Art Loeffler and get into the playoffs and maybe make a run. But also, he's just like he lacks some depth and he lacks just a full starting lineup of good players to be moved up into a playoff hopeful or a contender. So he's kind of just like on the edge there, could break in and maybe make a run. And then, yeah. And then next I got Steven. Just a quick rundown on Stevie J. He's 2-2 this year so far. He's had some good high-scoring weeks. He just like Big Ricky, saw core of Aaron Rodgers, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek, Darren Waller, Kareem Hunt. And so he's got a solid core, but still just like a couple missing pieces in the starting lineup or some depth that is holding him out. And then basically same for Officer TC. I'd say he's got all the solid pieces with Mahomes, Aaron Jones, Cordero now for a while, which isn't good for him. Garrett Wilson's showing promise as a rookie. Christian Kirk, big breakout guy. Al Lazard, beast. But other than that, still missing those flex pieces that really take you up that next level.
Yeah, my fringe playoff list includes Enrique and Steven for the reasons you said. My thing with Enrique is pretty much he should trade Brady, get the value that he can this year with so many unknowns. So many unknowns at the moment. And once Odell signs with the team and comes back healthy, that should be a big piece for him. He's definitely a team to watch if he can make the playoffs. Then I have our Loeffler, Mr. Remy, our defending champion, as a fringe playoff team. You just never know with his team, especially now that he has Lamar, Clyde Edwards, if he can continue to be hot. And Duvernay is not a bad flex option. He's also got Geno Smith that he's trying to trade with me. We'll see. I don't really have that much faith. And I do have Josh as a fringe playoff team, mostly because he's still waiting on DeAndre Hopkins to come back. He's still waiting on Deshaun Watson to come back. I think he's going to have an interesting team if he can stay afloat. He is 2-2, so he's doing a good job of that. Just staying at 500 until those guys come back would be pretty big in an 18 playoffs. We move on to our playoff hopefuls. Jake, you are back. Who are your playoff hopefuls?
I've got 3. My list includes myself, I have M Tom, and I have you, Pablo. I'd say all 3 of our teams, we're all 3-2-2. All 3 have started with me and M Tom started with high hopes, and we've had some question marks pop up. You kind of started in this range, and you still have some question marks, but still had a solid start to the season, made some good moves. So overall, I'd say that we're pretty all of us, we're good teams, solid lineups, some depth questions that could lead to our playoff downfall.
Yeah, and I have the same 3, the same trio for essentially the same reasons. But I actually have Officer TC, Jacoby. And yes, Jacoby, I know you're watching. Rejoice. We are giving you the credit you deserve. 2 big wins back-to-back weeks against M Tom and myself. I would have found it hard to believe to leave him off of this playoff hopeful list. He's proven us wrong. And his team's a lot better than we thought it would be. And I'll give him credit for that. He's riding Mahomes and Aaron Jones. Garrett Wilson should end up being big for him. Christian Kirk's been awesome. And Tyler Conklin's been good. And everything's just falling his way right now. And you really got to respect it. He does lose Cordell Patterson for 4 weeks. We'll see where he can find that RB depth. I have Tyler Algier. I'm pretty happy about that. Not starting him this week against Tampa Bay. I'm not an idiot. But we will see what happens with him and Jacoby. We are giving you the credit you massively deserve. Keep it up. We'll see what you can do. And now, moving on to our contenders. And this is a list that we've had pretty engraved and, not to say anything against you and M Tom, which were 2 teams that we thought would be, I thought they were pretty much in between the contenders and playoff hopefuls. It's like a solid playoff spot. I think hopefuls is still pretty, I'd say it's like 60%. I would have put you guys at 80. But these are 3 teams I think without a doubt will make the playoffs. And funny enough, 2 of these teams didn't make the playoffs last year. And that is Ethan Andres, who didn't make the playoffs, and Matthew Gurman, who was our favorite last year, our favorite this year. And of the 3, M. Gurms has been the shakiest one. What are your thoughts on our 3 contenders?
I mean, all 3 deserve to be here, even if their records don't quite, even if Imgram's record doesn't quite reflect it. All 3 of them have multiple, top 5 assets at their position. You have Ethan with McCaffrey, Diggs, Kupp, and Kelsey. You have Imgers with Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall, Jamar Chase, and then you have Andres, who has Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, George Kittle.
He lost Javonte Williams for the year, though.
What is it? Yeah.
Javonte
Williams losing that's tough for him, but he still got.
He is in the market for a running back.
He is. He's desperate, people.
He is desperate. I would watch for that desperation. Desperation's not a pretty look, especially not traded.
So yeah, all 3 very much deserve to be here. Very much clear cut above the rest. Even if me and M Tom are kind of close to that level, they're just a tier above us, pretty clearly.
I think what's separating the contenders from everyone else is the consistency and the level of play. We haven't seen it from Emgers, but he's
Mhm.
got too stacked of a roster to shy away from. Andres obviously has wins over both Emgers and Ethan, which, it's the reason why he was our number one last week. And spoiler alert, he's our number one in the power rankings this week too. But Ethan escaped with the win over Emgers, which, I don't know how much it really impacts head to head in fantasy for the playoffs, but hey, the difference between 2 and 3 is pretty big. So, that's something to keep a pretty close eye on. But definitely Andres and Ethan's teams have shown out with consistency. They have the stars, they have the guys that they need. So our contenders, man, I don't think a team we've considered a contender the past 2 years has won the title. So it's a gift and it's a curse.
That's why I made sure I wasn't on that list.
As we like to say in this league, and it's not been said, but these contenders might love their sons too much. That just might be how it is. But now we'll wrap this up. I know how much you all love your power rankings, so I'll give them a quick read over before Jake does our lovely closing to make up for missing the intro. At 14 we have James Dumay. At 13 we have Josh Gitlin. 12 Thomas Blythe. 10 Remington Loeffler. Tied for 10 Remington Loeffler. Tied for 10 Enrique Villa. 9th Josh Beer. You did crack the top 10 this week, Josh. Now trade me Deshaun Watson. 8th Steven Jaworski. 7 Matthew Thompson. 6 Pablo Rosero. 5 Jacoby Washington. 4 Jake Hamilton. 3 Matthew Gurman. 2 Ethan McGrady. And at our top spot, Dr. Cocksucker himself, obviously. I'm joking. Soon to be Dr. Cocksucker, of course. Andres Rosero, our top team so far this year. After 4 weeks, a quarter way surprise. Not a shocker. Thoughts on our rankings this week, Jake? And close it out for us, please.
Okay, I was gonna say not a lot of changes in the rankings, but there was a decent amount of movement. I was up 3. You and Pablo, and M Town were both up 2. So some movement around the rankings.
Down 2.
Oh, down 2.
Jacoby shot up 2.
But
can't do math.
Yeah, Pablo and M Tom down 2. So there's some movement around the rankings. I probably should have voted myself back at 8, put another chip on my boys' shoulders, but I think they're ready to compete now. They're no longer complacent, so we're ready. And yep, so that was the power rankings for the week. We did the tier list. We'll come back with the tier list about halfway through the season, see how the landscape across the league has changed. And then, yeah, if you have any more trades that should go into Trader Tommy, you can always send them our way. And with that, I'm Jake.
I'm Pablo.
And we'll see you next time.
3, 2, 1,